sobre colaboración entre
Okay, are we good? Can you all hear me fine? Yep. Great. Okay, so we're here in beautiful Barcelona. Thank you so much for joining us. Can we have a look at the view here? So we're in a co-working space called Monday Barceloneta, and the view is absolutely amazing. So for the people who are here with us in person, we're so happy to have you here. And for those of you looking online, well, as you can see, Barcelona is the place to be. Yeah, I mean, and just speaking of the people we have online, Mark, do we have some people from different places?
Yes, Italy, Spain.
We've got Italy, Spain, Latin America, so we've got quite a diverse crowd with us here from all over the world. So we're really excited to speak to our guest speakers today. Today's talk is going to be all about building and managing a world-class UX writing team, and I can't think of any better speakers than the ones we have today to talk about that. So without further ado, I'm going to let each one of you present yourselves.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll start. Hi. I'm saying hi to the people online because, you know, there's two of us, so I'm trying to get used to this. First of all, I'm terribly sorry because I haven't done this for like 2 or 3 years. So I'm going to be a little bit rusty, okay? So please bear with me. That was the first and only disclaimer for today. That's it. I'm Mario Ferrer. I'm a staff content designer. I work over at Shopify at a smaller product that's called Shop. I've been doing content design for a long time now. So it's great to see, whoa, there we go. It's great to see so much interest and so many people showing up, and yeah, thank you for being here.
Patricia?
Hello everyone, thank you for coming to this event. You know, it's so great to see people face to face, finally, after 2 years. And hello everyone online. So my name is Patricia Gomez. I'm based in Barcelona. I work at King. I'm the Associate Director for Content Design or UX Writing in Candy Crush. And well, I've been working in content design for about 8 years, but I started my career way earlier in localization and translation, so I have like a nice balance of backgrounds.
Nice. And hi everyone, I'm Melanie Elvis Lima. I'm currently working at Qonto as a lead UX writer. I joined the company 2 years ago, and so I'm kind of new in the UX writing field, kind of a baby compared to you. But yeah, before I was also actually working on the translation and localization field, and really happy actually to be here tonight with you and you.
Just finished by introducing myself. So I'm Adil Dewan, Product Operations Principal here at Qonto. So we've got some really great profiles here, and I'm sure some amazing stories of how you got to where you are today. Patricia, maybe you'd like to start by telling us what your path to being in UX writing was.
Yes, so I started my career yesterday. I started, as I mentioned, I started in localization and translation. First working as a project manager, running some localization projects for tech companies. And then I joined Google, where I worked 6 years, leading localization for Spain and Portugal. I work in the launch of some new products that you may know, like Chrome and Android, but that was some time ago. And 8 years ago, I moved to Barcelona, and I started working at eDreams. It's an online travel agency, and there I was managing both the localization team and the UX writing team. So this is at that time when I got first in touch with the content design world. And 4 years ago, I changed jobs. I moved to King. And now I'm working in content design. I work in Candy Crush, and in my time at King, I had several roles, but I'm really proud to say that I started the first UX writing craft in the company, because in video games companies things work a little bit different. So there was no team at that time. So I kind of like came up with the idea of like, well, maybe it could be a good idea to have a UX writing team here.
Great. And Melanie, what about you?
I actually come also from the localization and translation field. But I've worked like in many different sectors at first. So going from engineering to tourism before getting specialized in luxury. That's when I actually started working also in copywriting. So I've been working for a couple of years for Hermès, which is a French luxury house, where basically I was working as a content manager for the French and English markets at that time, and also handling all the localization process of the different product pages we had for their e-commerce website. And at that time I was working so in-house in Paris until I decided to move to Marseille in the south of France. And so we're like in 2018, and I'm basically doing exactly the same thing I was doing in Paris, but as a freelancer. And I love the city a lot, but I hate actually being a freelancer. I just realized that I really missed having a team by my side, being part of a team, feeling challenged, like failing, winning with people. So I was like basically just on my own. So I decided to stop that freelancing adventure, if we can call it this way, and wanted to join the company again. But at that time, like I couldn't find anything matching my expectations at least in Marseille. And so yeah, I stepped back a little bit, trying to figure out actually what I wanted to do and what were those expectations. And basically I wanted to do something more aligned also with my values, something where I feel that I was actually having an impact and that was more useful and helpful. And that's how I get into UX writing. Then I always tend to say that I was at the right place at the right moment, surrounded by the right people. So I had at that time a lot of product designers around me. So I was already into UX, into product, into design. And I knew Qonto because actually one of my friends used to be product designer at Qonto, and I was quite impressed actually by the scale of the team and how much they valued content at that time, even though we didn't have like any UX writing team. So same as Patricia, we basically built the entire team of UX writing at Qonto. They had like content managers and copywriters and product copywriters. So yeah, I've joined first as a product copywriter, and there was one person in charge of like the in-app content, but really coming at the very end, like that cherry on the cake, working on the final content. We all know that, I think. And that left the company, and so I had the opportunity to take over that scope. And yeah, so I've been working for 2 years on production. So first as a UX writer, and then practicing again and again. I became a senior until like super recently, 2 months ago, where I had the opportunity to lead half of the UX writing team at Qonto.
Fantastic. And Mario, what about you?
So yeah, I'm originally from Mexico. I started over there working as an advertising copywriter. I used to write radio ads. Does anybody remember radio ads? I was from yeah. So then I moved over here to Barcelona in 2009, and yeah, crisis again. So there weren't many like advertising jobs at the time. But however, we're very fortunate here in Barcelona. We have a booming startup scene. So that's when I sort of like jumped over to more of like the copywriting for brand and comms. So I started in several technologies, some startups, and then I eventually landed at King, where they didn't know where to put me, and I was fortunate enough to land in that guy's team right there, Sergio Vila, it's pretty much thanks to him and Chris Grant that I'm here. And they showed me all the ropes of what being a product designer is, and like that you can't just change your name from copywriter to UX writer or content designer. By the way, second disclaimer this afternoon, we're going to be using content design, UX writing, product writing, just interchangeably, because that's a completely different situation. We're not going to get into it. Sorry, folks.
For another event, maybe?
That's for another event, a full-on event. Where was it? Yes, so I was at King, and I learned like all the ropes of how to apply design principles to writing, and that was like basically my school. I spent some time there, then I went over to Skyscanner, where I was leading a team of 4 UX writers. But more like on an IC from more the craft perspective. And then she called me back. And that was one of the best phone calls I got. And she's like, hey, remember that thing we spoke that I finally did it. I've got a UX writing team set up. Do you want to come back and lead it? And I was like, when do I start? And yeah, that was a great ride. We spent almost a year like setting up the foundations, and we'll tell you about in a bit. And then Shopify called. So if you work in the content design, UX writing, product writing, whatever you want to call it world, if Shopify calls, you say yes.
I forgive you.
So sorry, Patricia. And that's how I ended up at Shopify.
So cool. Okay. Well, speaking of, we're talking today about building teams, growing teams, and you've all got some experience in doing that. I want to know today, for each one of your teams, how are they structured? What does it look like? Mario, do you want to start?
Sure. So in our case, Shopify is like a huge org, right? And I work at a business unit that's called Shop. At Shop, what we have is right now there's 3 of us. There's 3 content designers, and we are all part of like Shop UX, which is in part of Shopify UX. So the way we're structured is 2 of them, which is John and Florence. Hi, John. Hi, Florence, if you're watching. They're embedded into their different teams because that allows them to like really dig deep into the actual strategic work, and they can actually like be part of that team, and everybody knows their names and their faces, which is brilliant. And then myself, I'm sort of a floater. I call myself sort of like the Mary Poppins of the company, because I go in, I fix stuff with some kids, and then I jump to other kids. But that allows the team to actually be able to focus on what's important, right? And so I do this dual role of an IC and sort of like a content ops craft lead type of thing. I don't have a name for it. So that's it.
Okay, cool. Patricia?
Yeah, at King we have a team of UX writers that work in Candy Crush, and then another UX writer working in Soda. And the approach that we took is embedding 1 UX writer per area, because the idea is to limit the ratio of UX designers and UX writers to the minimum. So that was the main goal.
And Melanie?
It's kind of the same. So at Qonto, the UX writing team is part also of the design studio, which is itself part of the product team. the slightly different is that we have a bigger team at Qonto because we're like 14 in the team, so we're like 14 UX writers, and the team is split in two. So lucky enough to lead half of them, and the other half of the team is led by our design director. I know he's watching actually. Hi, Mathieu. And basically, how we structure the team, the idea and the vision we have, it was okay, what expertises do we need actually to build a good product, to build a good UX? So on the product team and tech team, we're so specialized by CFT, basically a cross-functional team, kind of a squad where we have so all those expertises. And so we have product design, product management, product marketing management, engineers, and then UX writers to make sure actually that the UX we're building is good in terms of content messaging, and that we make sure to deliver value actually to our users. So basically each UX writer is assigned to a CFT, and the CFT will be like it allows you also to get specialized in a part of the product. So we have like a CFT dedicated to the cards section, to the transfer section. It can be also for like a specific project such as pricing, for example. And so that's how the team is structured. And since Qonto operates, it's a French company, but we operate on 4 markets, so France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, of course. And so we handle also the localization within directly the UX writing team. So we have also UX writers dedicated for each market to handle that localization and make sure actually that the UX we're like building in one language, which will be like English at first, is exactly the same in other languages, and that the value we are building, we will offer exactly the same for other users, no matter which language they use on the product.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about, so 14 UX writers in 4 different markets. What are the challenges of building a team that's so international and working in different countries and different time zones?
So many, actually. I think the biggest challenge we can have, and no matter actually if it's across markets or not, I feel it's still something new, UX writing, even though we're like talking more and more about that. Like actually, I think Google started to talk about UX writing like in 2018, and we're like in 2022, so it's basically yesterday. So I still think sorry, that there is like a lot to build, and we're actually still figuring out what's the best way actually to offer the best UX to the user in terms of content in the fastest way possible. And for that, so of course some markets and some continents are way more advanced than we can be. But in Europe, I feel we still lack maybe some seniority, and that's one of the challenge we can have. So within the team, making sure that we have ideally like half of the team with profile juniors and half of the team with seniors. So it will be the best way also to make sure that everyone has time and space to grow their own expertise. Meaning, so actually at Qonto we have like all the levels in the team. Lucky us, we have like experts, seniors, and juniors, but making sure that indeed like experts will be able to train the team, seniors will be able also to mentor juniors, and juniors actually to bring also what they know, what they've been learning so far, and learning also from others from the team. So that's one of the challenge we have. And coming back to localization as well, since actually it's an expertise per se, but we have it so within the team, and making sure that also the UX writers were looking for example, in a dedicated market, that they're able actually to think also in other languages, making sure that they have like the different control points when they are working, I don't know, like in English, that make sure that the UX writer who will be working afterward will have all the information they need to properly localize that in that language, and it's not a skill that everyone has. And then regarding please.
I just because we've got quite a lot to get through.
Definitely,
so, I mean,
please.
there are like so many challenges around the markets, and I did just want to hear from Mario. What about you? Shopify, incredibly international. country across many time zones as well.
And we're fully remote, so that's also the extra
Wow.
thing, right? So you have to get used to. I mean, it's a complete different way of doing stuff. So we've been doing it most of us for the past 2 years, so we kind of get it. But like when it's actually like the thing, you need to like your whole mindset revolve around it, right? So there's one thing my lead told me on the first day I was there is like, you need to make sure that your work revolves around your life, not the other way around, which for me makes total sense because that is what actually flexibility is for me, right? So what are the biggest challenges? One of the biggest challenges for sure is time zones, because we work across several time zones. So I have part of my team that's working from like West Coast in the US. Some of them are East Coast, sorry about that. East Coast in the US, and we have some people over in EMEA and APAC. So it's like, I've learned new skills about working asynchronously. So it's a lot of like taping myself on video, explaining walkthroughs of how this thing is and why do I think this is better, because it just saves time rather than me doing a huge email or a huge Slack thread. Also, there's like the difference in cultures you need to understand. Like, for example, the way that I've been working, for example, in European companies for the past 10 years, and the way us Europeans communicate is vastly different than the way the people in the US and Canada communicate. So it's like, how do you modulate that to make sure that everybody is comfortable and that you create a safe space for everybody?
Can you give us some insight on that? How do you bridge that gap between the different cultures?
Well, in my case, I cheat because I'm from Mexico. So I've been working with folks from the US and Canada like a long time ago, and I've been working, so I've seen both things. So I know that when we have a team of vastly Europeans, I can be way much more direct and to the point, because that's how they communicate. That's how we communicate here in Europe. Part of Europe now. On the other hand, in the US, you need to sort of like explain a little bit more, give much more context, and everything is a little bit, I don't want to say not as direct because it's pretty direct, but it's easier going. At least that's from my perspective. So when you have a bunch of people from different countries, it's like, how do you find a midpoint? It's about balancing. And also you have to take into account is like, one thing is culture, but the other thing is also personality of the people you work with. And when it comes to, and this is something you and I, we always talk about, when it comes to content designers or UX writers, folks tend to be very introverts. Like they're very like jealous of the space, and I totally get that. So I need to understand that, because I'm not that at all. You can see that. So I need to make this empathy exercise of understanding that there's some folks that need some time to process the information, and there's some folks that can jump into solution mode at the spot. So it's just practice, man.
Yeah, in the case of King, now that we are past the pandemic, we have a flexible setup for work. So you can actually decide to work from home only, or work from the office, or do both. So this opens like a lot of possibilities, because we want to respect like and the flexibility, or the what each people decide how they want to work. But we are thinking on like ways on how we can, kind of like make bonds, because we have to acknowledge that over Zoom it's hard to build relationships. So for example, now what we are doing is traveling. Actually, in 2 weeks I'm going to Stockholm to spend a week there to meet the team face to face, because actually one of the girls I hired, I haven't met her in person yet. So I thought it was a good idea to spend some face-to-face time with the team, but also meet with stakeholders face-to-face as well. It is important to some internal politics in companies. And when it comes around like people from different culture, absolutely, it is very important to understand how each country or culture communicates, because this helps you, kind of like gives you some tricks around how to do that. There's a couple of really good books around that.
The Culture Map.
The Culture Map, it's amazing.
I always forget the author. Erin?
I can't remember the name. She works in INSEAD, but it's an amazing book that can give you some
We're going
tools.
to send a bibliography
Yeah.
after this.
It can give you some tools on how to communicate with people from different cultures, because sometimes we may have like the wrong expectations. And when it comes to the personality, what you just mentioned, it depends. There's kind of some kind of blend, but it's interesting to see that maybe in other teams like marketing, like people are more like extroverted. So that's why I'm an extroverted in an introverted world, which is interesting because I'm kind of like the business development manager for the team, making sure that we open, or I help them open doors.
That's such a fancy way to call yourself.
I know, right? Yeah, I work with words,
Yeah,
There you go.
that's the talent. And so, we're thinking about sort of growing and scaling teams today. I want to know for you as hiring managers, what are you looking for in a great UX writer or content designer for your team? Maybe if you could start, Patricia.
many things. Sometimes looks like we are looking for unicorns because it is like a rare species right now in the ecosystem. Obviously, I look for someone that has like really good role-related knowledge. That's for sure. But I also look at other elements like I love that people are curious and they want to learn more and more in order to grow. And I value a lot that people are proactive, because in the world, in our case, in the case of content design, you need to earn your seat at the table because no one else is going to give it to you. So that's why are you laughing? That's why being proactive helps you a lot to actually explain to your team members and stakeholders why your work is important and why you need to be in meetings, etc. You may find yourself doing that every day. I'm cool with that because I know that I need to be like evangelizing about UX writing every single day of my life. So yeah, like these two elements will be crucial to me.
And do you look for people who have a passion for gaming?
Well, not necessarily, because UX writing is like a pretty new field in the video games industry. So it's very rare to find UX writers with a background in gaming. So I normally look at good UX writers, and then they come and they learn all about the games.
Yes.
So wait, that means I'm good.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
What about you, Mario? What do you look for?
I'm not a hiring manager, but I participate in a whole bunch of interview process. So it depends, and I know it's not the answer you're looking for, but let me explain. It depends on what your team needs, because you can bring someone in that's really good at what they do, but if they don't jive with what you have at hand, it can be a disaster, and that in the long run is very expensive. So for me, is like expensive not just in the money perspective, but also in like the time perspective and people perspective and a whole bunch of
It takes
perspectives.
time hiring people.
I
So
know,
if you
I
hire
know,
the
it's a
wrong
pain in the
person,
butt.
it takes so long to kind of like fix it
exactly.
back.
So it's pretty much what you were saying, right? So you look for someone that knows their craft, right? But also that's passionate about their craft, because in the long run, you need them to be advocates for what they do. I always joke around that when you're a content designer or a UX writer, you have two jobs. You have your day job and your like vigilante job, right? So your day job is doing the actual job, and then you have to go around knocking on doors and telling people what you do, why is it important, and why they should like let you in and play. So it's a whole mix of people that are capable of doing their craft really well, but that are also open to like knocking on doors. And like if they don't give you a seat on the table, you just grab your seat and just put it on the table and start talking.
Melanie.
On my side, I'm definitely not looking for people passionate about finance, because I don't know if there are a lot. But yeah, coming back to the hard skills, I think we're all aligned. We can all relate also about evangelizing. I don't know like any UX writer who has not done that, and I'm actually still doing it also on my own. I think the main things I will look for in a candidate will be someone also like really willing to learn. I think it's easy to know what you're good at, but not so easy to know what you need to improve. And as a UX writer, we work like with so many stakeholders. I think we also need to learn and understand the needs of those stakeholders, their problems as well. For example, as a UX writer, I will be working with engineers. I have no idea about code, but then I will go like see a dev and okay, what do you need to code a variable, for example, or to my team, what do you need to make a good localization, for example? So looking for that kind of people. Also, since like UX writing is still quite new, and I'm one of them actually, coming also from copywriting, where like the main goal is actually like selling the product, so really super business oriented. and we need to find people also that have like that switch, and it's like user first actually, and then indeed trying to find the right balance. But yeah, so people that have also an appetite for design, ability also to build a UX, to think for the users, like really that has this user empathy. And at the end, it will be like someone. So what we try at least to build at Qonto is like when you know user pain points, your stakeholders' pain points, you also are able to speak about yours and knowing, okay, what are my problems on a daily basis? What do I need to do properly my job, meaning building a good UX and bring value to my user? And so you are able to rationalize also your choices and align stakeholders around what you've been doing. It participates also in evangelizing what you do. I strongly believe actually that my expertise, without like any other expertises, they don't have so much value at the end. Yeah, if you ask me to put content, I will put content, but I have no idea why I'm doing that or what was the user pain point initially. So that's what we try to do at Qonto, for example, having like the CFTs working on the same piece at the same time, towards the same direction. And I'm not saying it's easy, because spoiler alert, it's not at all, but at least that's the vision we have, the direction we want to take, and yeah, that's what we try to look for in a candidate. Maybe that's why we're struggling to hire. It's too much asking.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've been talking today about how UX writing is a little bit of a young profession, a couple of years down the road now, and there are probably a lot of people who, a bit like you were quite recently, Melanie, who were individual contributors in their team and are looking to take that leap into managing a team of UX writers or content designers. What do you think makes a good manager of a team of UX writers, Patricia?
That's a really good question. Well, in my case, I started leading people while I was working at Google. I was managing a team of freelance translators, and since then, I've been managing teams all over. Good qualities. Thinking of the managers that I've had, I really value someone that can understand the role of the content designer and the situation and the context that they're at. Because at the end of the day, we need to understand that they do a lot of context switching, and this can be like really frustrating, and yeah, so we need to have some empathy about that, and also someone that is very strategic to be able to help the team kind of like look forward. Someone that is really good at communicating and giving and receiving feedback. That's so important, to be able to help your team members with their blind spots, to help them know themselves better, but also learn how to kind of like thrive the work environment. And a manager, someone that you can trust, that the person will be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Melanie, what about you, a UX manager? What are your main skill sets?
So definitely super new from me. Like not talking about the hard skills that we know. So yeah, indeed, someone who knows about language, about linguistics, semantic, about UX, the pain points also we can have in a user flow. So those are like the hard skills, of course, we're looking for in a UX writer. But then if we come really to management, what we will look at will be so really someone willing also to share and to teach the team, making sure that they can think about the way they're doing things. So it comes back to the rationalize your choice, but it's like, okay, when I know why I do things this way, then it helps me like improve actually. And we will look for someone who will be like building knowledge, basically. For example, at Qonto, we start our day with settling goals, and we take a look at the goals the day after. The idea is definitely not to say, "Ooh la la, you didn't reach your goal." It's more like, okay, what happened? What can you learn from that? How we could avoid facing that, how we could have anticipate that, and so what can we? So it's basically building knowledge from the team and the ways they can have for the team and with the team. And that's what we look for. And then, of course, someone who provides also the right environment for the team to grow, making sure that they have like the right models, that they are also actually able to build models, break them, build new ones again. So really being in continuous improvement.
Yeah, and Mario, same question to you.
I mean, I don't have anything extra to add besides what you both said. The only thing that I would do on top of is like, I think for me a good manager has to be like you were saying, right? This cheerleader thing, because it's that, and also they have to have your back. Like they have to be, I don't know, whatever metaphor you want to do, like the corner and boxing, whatever. Because for me, a manager shouldn't fight my fights, but my manager should give me enough power and confidence that I can go and fight that fight. And if I fall down, because I will, they'll be there to pick me back up, dust me off and say like, hey, let's go try it again. But not go there and do it for me, but rather teach me how to do it, right? So, and we've talked about this also. It's a little bit like parenting. I got 2 kids, so everything mixes and matches. So the whole idea about helping others is very interesting, because we're always talking about the empathy we have for the people we design for. But sometimes we forget about the empathy that we have to have for the people we design with. So for me, the best trait of a manager is someone that's capable of having that empathy 24/7 for every single one of each individual that they have, with their personalities, with their quirks, with their skills, with their shortcomings, and still be able to help in a particular way.
Yeah, I will add that generosity is also like an important element, because being a manager means that you need to be generous with your people, because it's all about them, not you.
It's not about you anymore, indeed.
Yeah. It's not about how you shine, it's about how you have the other shine.
Exactly.
And I mean, I haven't been yet a people manager, but like when you're not a people manager and you start talking to people management folks, you realize there's so much that goes behind that you have no idea. So if you have a manager that you like, say thank you, because you don't know half of it. So thank you.
A lot goes, a lot is going on under the under the radar.
And of course, management isn't the only way to grow in the UX writing profession. Mario, what about growing as an individual contributor in the space?
Yeah. So this is also very depending on the company you work at, because some companies have the options. Like for example, I'm very lucky that at Shopify we have, once you reach a senior position, you can decide if you want to go to the IC track or you can go to the management track. So for me, it's always been IC because I love the craft and I love working and getting my hands dirty, but I also like more of like the ops side of things. And that, at least from my perspective, when you have people that you have to service, you kind of have to, you can't do both things because you won't be able to do them well. So I think it's up to you to first understand what your business is like, what your company is like, and understand what are the opportunities that you have, and then figure out what is it that you want to do. Because it's being a manager, there's so much more, like we were saying, behind that. You have to like really want it. You really want to get deep in and help these folks like actually shine. On the other side, when you're an IC, like it's my case, it's like, I'm not gonna say it's the easier way, but it's kind of the easier way. No, it's not. It's not easy at all. Trust me, nothing's easy in life. No, the thing is, you are capable of being much more like boots on the ground. And if you like, for example, like in my case, like systems thinking, or if you like everything has to do with operations, you have a chance to like set in place those processes, the tooling, stakeholder. By the way, we need a better word for stakeholder management. I hate that. Does anybody have anything better? Does anybody have anything better? Please let us know. I need.
Yeah, we'll take suggestions in the comments.
We'll take suggestions. Something for everybody. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of people watching and listening today who are maybe the first or the only UX writer or content designer in their company. What's your advice to the team of one? How do you build from there? Patricia?
Have a lot of courage and patience, because it will come. You know, over time you'll be able to grow the team. Like normally the UX writing teams start with a team of one, the lucky and the unlucky person. So I always suggest to kind of like dosify yourself because it's going to be like a long way, and not only do like day-to-day work and tactical work, but also do evangelization and meet with people and explain what UX writing is about. And if you can start find friends along the company, that will help you build the case for you, and get like a senior person that can help you build the case for writing or for creating a team. You know, depending on the level, sometimes UX writers may not be in the conversations for asking for more headcount, but you can always kind of talk to the head of design or the head of product and explain why UX writing is important and why you need more UX writers, and they can help you build a case for growing the team.
And Melanie, you were the first UX writer. You're now a team of 14. What's the secret? How did you go from just being the only one to such a big team?
Practice, and practice, basically. Of course, it's not possible to work on everything, but basically I'm doing just 2 years, and so I've been working on my own for 8 months, and it was quite tough indeed, like super challenging. But I've been working on so many different pieces. I've been working with so many stakeholders, with in so many features, and failing a lot, but learning a lot as well. And I guess indeed, like with practice, asking questions, being also super well surrounded within the company and outside the company as well. And it's funny because like features that I've been working on when I first arrived, and I thought they were like so complex, and they have a lot of value and they're super cool. But now I'm looking at them, I'm like, okay, that was easy peasy actually, but I was struggling that much at that time. And yes, I will say practice. And once actually you are able to build a good UX through content and having quite a good impact at your level, then you can indeed like start growing and have an impact not only at your CFT level, for example at Qonto, but like at the team level, at the company level. And that's how I made the move. And then coming back to I think it's all about people. But for example, indeed, I only have like 2 years of experience on the field, even though I think 2 years at Qonto it's like 5 or 6 years somewhere else maybe. But I'm surrounded by like so many talented people that have been working and building products since 20 years, people that have been working in design since 10, 15 years. So yeah, I'm asking them, taking all the knowledge, their advice, and also to apply them and share them with my team now.
Yep. Mario, team of one?
Ask why at least 5 times a day, every 2-3 hours, first of all. When you start, you need to have a very, very, very heart-to-heart conversation with whoever leads you, so you understand what are the expectations from their side. You take those expectations, wrap them up, and you go with your team, and you set those expectations together with your team, which are aligned with your manager or your lead. Why? Because this will give you an idea of what you can, and most importantly, what you cannot do. Because you have to become ruthless, and let me repeat that 2 times, ruthless at prioritizing your tasks, because you're just one person for a whole company, for a whole team of designers, which means you have to be really good and start getting comfortable at saying, nope, I can't do this. But not just no because I don't want to do this, it's no because I'm doing all of these things. So you have to start gathering data of what you're doing, how much time it's taking you, and what impact it's having, because that will help you build a business case in order to grow your team. And last but not least, always bring chocolate cookies for your team, because they'll like you.
Stakeholder management.
I prefer ham.
Or ham one, or just ask your team what they like, I guess.
Yeah. Just one more thing I'd like to add. When you are a team of one, make sure that your manager knows what you do.
Definitely.
It's so important. It's the only way. Your manager, might be the head of design or, from another function that may has no idea about UX writing. Make sure that this person knows about UX writing. I did that in the past. I spent like hours kind of like teaching my manager, and it pays off a lot, because then my manager was talking about my team in meetings where I was not in, even with the CEO or any other senior leadership. So it's great, that you start evangelizing your manager so that he can talk, she can talk on your behalf.
Off the bat of that, if I may, always make sure that you're there at whatever you call it, UX reviews, design critiques, whatever, and not just being there, but like actually presenting alongside with your product designers, so folks understand what it is that you do and how you're doing it.
That's a rule we have actually at Qonto. It's kind of the rule, like if you need a product designer, it means actually that you need a UX writer as well. So it's your buddy, go wherever the product designer is going, and we have like some of them and I think they can relate, but basically product designer, UX writer.
But also means that you have to kind of like push yourself to and feel uncomfortable for presenting as well, and kind of like
yes
be
and
there.
no. Okay, so yes to a point, but you have to be able to speak to your team and your leads or your managers. Folks, don't burn out.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it happens. I've been there and I've seen it. So it's not fair. Okay? So if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, if the weight of what you're doing is too much, just talk it out.
Yeah.
There's ways of figuring out. Of course we need to be there, and of course we need to be hitting those battle drums and trying to do as much as we can.
But it's about balancing
Exactly.
your energy as well.
But when you're a
because it's
team
going to
of
be a
one,
long run.
it's very hard to do that, especially if you're starting. So please take it easy on you. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. But just take it baby steps.
Sage advice. So we've got fintech, we've got gaming, we've got e-commerce. I want to hear a little bit about the variances in your craft, which are specific to your industry. So Patricia, why don't you kick us off?
In the case of video games, there are so many roles, so many more than in any other digital companies. Mario's laughing because it means that there's many more stakeholders to build relationships with, and also explain to them what you do, and it also makes it harder to find your place within the game development process. So it is a challenge, but a really interesting one actually. So in the case of video games, you can within the creative roles, you can find game designers and narrative designers who work like at the beginning of the process, kind of like creating, and that's I'm gonna use the words from one of the game designers from King, that he explains that game designers create problems for the players to solve, and UX designers create solutions for the players. So that would be the difference. So at the beginning, it's the game designers creating the mechanics of the game together with the narrative designers creating like the metaphors and the whole story about the game, and then it comes the interactions, and then with the UX designers and the UX writers working together, and on top of that come the UI designers and then developers, etc., etc. And that's another role that I forgot. Yeah, the economy designers that are also involved together with the game designers to make sure that like the game economy is balanced. So at least 3 or 4 roles more.
Data and legal.
Yeah.
Oh man, legal.
Just for those of us who don't know, what's game economy?
Game economy.
How much
Let's
time
talk
do you
about
have?
game balancing now.
Do we need another event for this?
Maybe, yeah. Because it's a very specialized, and normally like UX writers don't get to engage with economy designers at that level, because they actually look at from a profitability perspective and engagement with the player, what it's going to make the game engaging enough but also challenging enough for them.
So next time I'm playing Candy Crush, I'm going to be thinking of all of these different people behind the scenes that are making this possible.
So many people working for you to play.
Yeah. Okay. And Mel, tell us a bit about the fintech sector. What are the specificities there?
Yeah, I will say being, of course, compliant. So that's one of the main challenge also we can have. Of course, it depends on the part of the product, but most of the time we work with a lot of partners, so within and outside the company. And then depending on the feature, we can work with the compliance team, legal team, fraud team as well. And so that's actually it's kind of finding the right balance between being compliant, so matching the law and what we need to do actually to be playing by the rules, but also being like user friendly and not using a jargon, making something that making sure that we're like in the user world with the words we use. So it's always like, okay, I will advise to put that, no, you should, we need this information. Okay, maybe if we turn it this way, it will be better. So that's one of the main challenge we can have working in the fintech company.
It takes a lot of hours to negotiate with the legal
as well.
team, right?
Yeah,
I used to do that
well.
in my job at eDreams. We became really good friends because we had to negotiate so much. Like, okay, so what is the bare minimum legally? And then can we push it a little bit?
Exactly, like sometimes you're like with a 15 lines subtitle and you're like, oh, okay, this is why it won't be possible actually. So let me show you. This is a design, guys.
Yeah,
so
because the job is to avoid the company to being brought into court.
As well.
That's where what I call the legal tango comes in, because it's sort of like a dance, right? So, no, trust me, it's like, get them to pair right with you. Sit them down, or like a Zoom call or whatever, and like, okay, so this is the space we have, this is your legals. What is the absolute minimum that we need to fit in here? And together, work it together, because they are the subject matter experts.
Yeah. But when you get them to write, they go like, this is so difficult. I didn't know this job is so hard.
Yeah.
Story of our lives.
Story of our lives. It feels you preaching to the choir, folks. Yes, e-commerce. So in my case, I think it's all about systems thinking, because I look at it like we're building the pieces of the Legos. Can I say Lego? Yeah, well, Lego bricks. We're building the pieces of the set that folks out there are going to build their stores with that. So we have to make sure we have enough pieces and that we have enough colors and that they fit together. So whatever that person on the other side of the screen is trying to build, it doesn't only work from the back end, but it also looks super nice and like the whole UX works. So for me, it's like spending a lot of time and a lot of thought process of like how that system is going to work and how you make it scale to like millions of people across the world. So yeah, for me, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. We're just gonna have some quickfire questions now, just to end the discussion part of things. So I'd like to know, what's your favorite piece of UX writing, content design that you've seen, either recently or not so recently? What about you, Mel? What do you think?
Wow, it's so hard to choose. Yeah, I can't say one. I will say especially maybe because I'm working actually in fintech, and so the content is not the funniest, the sexiest we can find indeed. But so yeah, I like the kind of UX writing and / copywriting that I like will be the one actually that will make me smile, like, you know, going on the metro, just seeing this ad and you're like, oh, great. Or just like entering in an app, you're like, oh, I really like this catchy line. Maybe because indeed I can't use them on a daily basis. But yeah, I can't think about one, but it will be something like maybe Thrifty, they are really good on that. MailChimp also, they used to be really good. Yeah, that kind of UX writing that I will like.
Yeah, great. Patricia.
I have to say any piece of UX writing coming from Google. Any Google product, because they make really complex things and concepts look easy for the users, and believe me, it's really hard.
Hey Tori. For me, I think the folks over at Slack do a great job because they actually marry like the actual interactions with the visuals and the content, and they do a great job at it. They're amazing.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about living in Barcelona?
Me, I live 20 minutes away from Barcelona. I love the city when I come because I love to visit. It's like we got everything. You've got the beach, you've got the mountains, you've got great food. Everything, man. It's like I moved here 10 years ago. No, I don't even know.
Why are you looking at me?
Because I'm trying to think how many years ago I moved there. I think it's just the whole sum of it that you don't get this like whole sum of it in other cities in Europe. Yes, like in the southern part of like Italy and maybe in Portugal you might get, but that plus the tech scene that we have in Barcelona, you have one thing or the other. And like if you go up north, yes, great tech scene, but you have no sun.
Yeah. So apart from the sun and the food, there's no such amazing food up north there.
They got good tacos in Stockholm.
You need to. I'll be there in 2 weeks, so you need to talk. So beyond like like the amazing quality of life here. It is a very international city, a lot of like culture offering, but also it is becoming a tech hub. And this is very important because, you know, combining like having like a really good personal life and also being able to work in a cool job, that's amazing.
For sure. Mel.
I've actually just recently moved. Like I think I arrived like 2 months ago. So yeah, despite what we've been saying, the food is indeed amazing. The vibes. Yeah, I will say it's super cliche, but I'm coming from Paris, so I'm like kind of obsessed with sun and palm trees and words. And basically here it's like the perfect match, like being a UX writer here and there's the sun. So yeah, really, really enjoying it. The food is indeed amazing, but stop with this croissant, please, guys. No. You have to stop.
You can't have
Here
everything.
Yeah, we can't have everything indeed.
No. Okay, so you all heard online, Barcelona is the place to be. Many tech companies here too. Speaking of online, we've had questions from all over the world, Nigeria, Brazil, France, and many locations in Spain as well. So hello to all of you. We will alternate between questions online and in the room as well. So there will be a microphone going around. Let's start with Christian, who asks, are the UX writers introverted people? From his experience,
I knew we would
yes.
have this question.
Who wants to answer that?
Yes, they are.
Yes,
Like
why is
people
that?
who work like in linguistics, they normally tend to be introverted. So that's why sometimes I wonder, like, why do I do what I do? Because I'm like pretty extroverted. But you know, as I said, I'm the business development manager, helping them to shine.
Do you have a theory on why they're introverted?
No idea.
Because they're amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
There you go. Best people are
Not
introverted.
us,
Yeah.
It's like if they're capable of thinking about all these things inside their own world and then putting it down on paper or an interaction, that for me is
Yeah.
amazing.
If you give them like the right space and the right setup,
I'm totally incapable
they'll
of doing that.
be great. And sometimes we can help them to thrive in companies because, you know, like companies love extroverted people. So it's about like making a space for them so that they can be heard and seen.
For sure.
And again, it's just being really quick as a new thing. It's like mostly people come from like journalism, they'll come from copywriting, they'll come from content writing, they'll come from like literature. All these folks tend to work alone most of the times. So that also.
Yeah, that's an important element that
Yeah.
normally they work alone. And as UX writers, we need to collaborate with a lot of people. So we need to talk with a lot of people.
And align with a lot of people as well.
Does anyone in the room have a question? I'll give you some time to think. We can go to another question online.
Wait, do they get a price if they ask a question?
Absolutely.
That always works. First question gets a prize, so.
They'll get a beer.
So many people have asked Mario to start a UX writing merchandising brand. What do we know about that?
I might even open my own Shopify store.
You're in the right place.
With t-shirts.
So Patricia, you were talking about the cheerleading metaphor earlier. Wojtek asks, what's the biggest danger of being a cheerleader? And if yes, what are they? So what are the biggest dangers of being a cheerleader?
I don't see any danger because in the end it's about like empowering people to be themselves and get to their highest potential. Sometimes, especially, we tend to get imposter syndrome, so you need someone that can kind of like lift you up and say, hey, you are amazing, just believe in yourself and you'll get there.
Brilliant. And so question in the crowd, do you want to just present yourself quickly?
Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm product designer at Travelberg. So the question is about the one-man band that you were talking about earlier. How could product designers facilitate being the one-man band? Because I imagine like you would have to attend multiple meetings. Like if you have like design crits and you have to be in all of them, let's say you have 4 or 5 projects going on at the same time, like how could we like facilitate?
Partners in crime.
Yeah, best
By-
couple ever.
Yeah, and by that I mean is like we will heavily rely on you to let us know what are the meetings that we absolutely have to be there, what are the main projects that we should work on, and what are the projects that we could take a little bit more time with. And it has to be like a transparent and very ongoing communication. because like you said, is like we work with a whole bunch of you folks and you just work with us. So it's like, how do we balance it out? And on our side, it's our responsibility for you to have like a clear idea of what we're working on. So please, and I get this a lot, is like, yes, bother us, it's fine. It's like, we are capable of doing it and we'll tell you if we can't. So from our side, it's like, we'll let you know what we're working on so you can guide us through. And the other thing is, invite us to like all the meetings at the beginning, all of them, and then we'll decide which ones together with you.
I have one more ask. Always respect the work of the UX writers. I've been in situations where designers were overriding the copy of my team, and that would drive me crazy. Like, you know, they're there for a reason. Just respect their work. They know what they're doing. It's their expertise.
And also, play with us in Figma. We love like jamming together. Let's jam. It's like, that's
It's
why we
our
have our
playground.
layout. Exactly. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Good call.
See?
Thank you for your question.
Come on here.
Yes, I have a question for Patricia. It's a quite specific one. At some point you mentioned that at King you were trying to, and speaking about this partnership between product designers and content designers, you were trying to follow or reduce the ratio between product designers and content designers to a minimum. So I'm wondering if that means like you're aiming to have like a 1-to-1 ratio or not, and if not, which is the ratio?
That would be my dream, but I need to take it like step by step. So I can't, you know, when asking for headcount, you need to be smart and realistic. And, you know, it's about like a long-term strategy. So I prefer kind of like giving like a bigger ratio at the moment, and then we will get there. It's about also like proving the value, and then they will come back for more.
But do you consider that eventually, in an ideal world, you should have like a 1-to-1 ratio?
That would be the ideal, but in some cases maybe 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 also works. It depends on the company setup and the product and the teams.
What's the ratio you have at King?
At the moment, 3-to-1.
Okay. We have 2-to-1 at Qonto, and indeed the goal is also aiming to have 1-to-1, and really like, yeah, it's a couple, as we say. So yeah, at the moment it's kind of open relationship then, 2-to-1, but
Partner in crime, open relationship.
it's
got a
still
few-
talking about UX writing.
Yeah. So
And just one. Yeah.
yes.
The other thing is like, you have to flip it around, right? So most product designers, they'll raise their hand up when they have like 3 to 4 things that they have to work on. It's like, this makes no sense. So imagine we do that times 6 or times 7. It makes no sense at all. So I don't know if a ratio 1-to-1 is doable, or if it's even that's the way to go. I think it depends on what your team and your company needs, because there are things that you can do with one content designer and several designers, because it's like fast-paced experiments. But if there's like a deep thinking into like, hey, let's get into like taxonomy and the information architecture of this, yeah, you're gonna need some brain power there.
Yeah, depending on the product, you may need like one UX writer per team, but in many other areas in the company, that might not be necessary. So there's no kind of like rule for that.
Amazing, thanks.
Thank you for the question.
We've got one from the chat. So Gaia asks, if you had to hire a UX writer for your team, what's the super skill you would require apart from the basic ones that you mentioned earlier? So we're going for one skill, and I'm going to go to each of you in turn. So Mario.
Systems thinking.
Systems thinking. Patricia.
I mentioned 2 already. I'm gonna go for another one, a new one that is. So I mentioned curiosity and proactivity. I'm gonna mention a third one that is someone that is able to speak several languages, or the languages from stakeholders, because you may need to work with developers. You need to know how to talk to them, or to designers or product people. So you need to be able to, you know, in a way you are kind of a translator, talking or adapting to your stakeholder language.
And Mel?
I've mentioned quite a few, but I will say maybe also a good storyteller, not only like for what you're going to do on a daily basis, but also within the company. It will definitely help you find allies, help, and yeah, good storyteller.
Okay, so we had a question here.
Yeah, hi, my name is Max. I'm Product Education Manager at Hold It. And my question is, when you started building your UX writing teams, how was that challenge about like integrating that into the processes? How did you started that conversation with the technical teams and the product team? Well, how did it start? Because that's kind of like in my organization where we are right now, like trying to integrate our processes. So I want to know that.
Okay. Looking back at 8 years ago, the word content designer or UX writer didn't even exist. So, that's something, because I had to look for, I knew what I was looking for, but you couldn't find them the exact role in the market. So I had to look for potential and skills and knowledge. But, right now you search for UX writer or content designer in LinkedIn, you get like a lot of results. 8 years ago, not at all. So that was the main challenge. When it comes to integrating or, getting a seat at the table with design, product, etc., a lot of talking, a lot of chocolate, and in my ham as well. But it takes like talking and explaining a lot, and actually taking any opportunity to kind of like explain to them, hey, this is how a UX writer can help you. Sometimes what work for me is instead of like trying to map all the teams, start small and run a pilot with one of them. And embed a UX writer in one team, and then make it work, and then show it to the rest of the teams. And I'm sure that each product team will come to you and say, hey, I want some of what that team is having.
So all of that, plus a little bit of explaining to your team that having a UX writer, content designer, whatever the case may be, is not an extra step in the process, but it's part of that process, because they shouldn't see that thing as an overhead or as a service that comes in. No, that's part of your process.
In the end, it's a skill that they don't have in the team.
That's actually the approach we had at Qonto, because at first I was like really involved at the very end, and really it was like, oh, Mel, can you do your magic, please? No, guys, I'm just like a UX writer, definitely not the like that sparkle.
Yeah, the UX,
the cherry on the cake, and you're like, I can't actually. And so basically, almost every time I was like, okay, but it doesn't work, guys. This is broken. We need to like what we want to say, and the design we have, it doesn't fit. Like, so let's step back, go back to research and working together, iterating together, and it happened like on 1, 2, 3 pieces. And yeah, at some point we're like seeing all the ways we're creating, the rework we're like facing with the team, then delays, and then the poor quality also we had. So, and since we think like quality first, at the end we're like, okay, the UX is definitely not good. And so it happened like on a few pieces. And at some point, actually like the company doesn't have like any choice and saying, okay, if we really want, indeed, as we said, it's like an expertise, and you need it to build a good UX, a good product. So yeah, hire more people, guys.
Yeah.
So,
In my experience, in my experience, what happened is that when a UX writer was brought in like last minute, they will come in and ask lots of questions, and the designer will go like, "Ooh, what's going on?" And the fun thing or the great thing is that some of the questions they didn't think about them, so they're like, "Oh, so this person knows a thing or two about this. So next time, maybe for this feature, may not have time, but for the future, they remember to check in with that person because they will be able to ask the right questions."
Also, help them empathize with that team, right? Because if you go to a product designer or a UX UI designer, and you tell them, do you remember like 10 years ago when devs used to come and tell you, sprinkle that magic UX on top, and you'll see their faces cringe, just like, that's what's happening to us right now. Like, we should be learning from our mistakes. And there's another tip that I got from Michael J. Betts, which is amazing, is like every single time that a designer asks you, so when should content start? You go like, when does product design start?
From the beginning?
Exactly. But you have to linger there for just like drama.
Just let it marinate. Yeah. I've got a question from David in the chat. What's the most challenging part of managing UX writers? So Melanie, you're a brand new manager. What's the most challenging part?
So many challenges actually since I'm facing them. I will say we've been talking, for example, about like evolving also as an AC, and it's, in my opinion, it's like also not seeing that we tend to see also like leading, being manager like at the ultimate goal, which is not. And it's okay also to not know everything. And I'm still learning a lot, and I don't have like any problems also saying to my team like, okay, I don't know, but we will find out together. I think that's one of the most challenging, because they are like facing also problems that I didn't face yet, but I'm on it with them. It will be this, and since with the scale also of the team, realizing also that what was working when we were like 3 in the team, 6, and now 14 is basically not working anymore. So it's okay. What is now the best way to work all together? We've all said, so when you're alone, you take the decisions on your own, and you're like, okay, it's in my mind, it's okay. Then you have like someone else jumping in the team, and you're like, oh, okay, let me tell you why this is working this way. And then 3, it works, and then indeed we're all working remotely, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, indeed, like, let me tell you why it's this way, but it doesn't work anymore now, for example, that we're 14. So yeah, that's one of the biggest challenge we can have, like keeping consistency and making sure that the team has access to the right tools, and yeah, it will be like, yeah, managing the scale of the team basically.
Yeah, and just making sure your people don't burn out.
For sure. People first.
Exactly, always.
Yeah, sometimes they create themselves like a lot of extra expectations that no one else is having but themselves. So it's about like, no, you know, this extra stuff, let's get them out of the way, because they're not gonna help you.
We've got a question here.
Hi, my name is Diana. I'm an English teacher, educational content writer, and PhD researcher in cognitive science. And my question is, do you think, guys, it's possible to land a job in UX writing with little experience in UX writing, but with, you know, experience in linguistics, for example?
Well, you gotta start somewhere. Like UX writers right now, they have background in localization, translation, journalism, copywriting, marketing, you name it. So there's always be like a first job. My recommendation always is try to join network of professionals. Like for example, Content Design Spain could be like a good way to meet people that work as UX writers, to learn from them and join events, etc. Also take courses or certifications, and take any opportunity that you have to work in content design projects, even if it's like, you know, NGOs. Like in a, sorry?
NGOs.
Yeah, NGOs, for example. It also helps you start building your portfolio as well with real life examples.
Thank you.
One tiny thing, you have to start, Diane, for you. You have to start reading about like what actually product design is, how interactions work, and all of that beauty of like UX, UI. Because yes, it's great. You have a whole bunch of, trust me, you have way more transferable skills than I had at the beginning, which is brilliant. But like I was saying, like the writing part is like the last bit of our job. So you need to understand how like product design works. Start reading. There's a whole bunch of books. I mean, we can recommend you some after this.
Yeah, there's a really interesting article by Rachel McConnell just about that, how the content designers work with the along the whole process, and you can tell that the writing part is just a tiny bit of the whole thing. So just start learning about product design and design in general. Read.
Speak to designers. You have a whole bunch of them here.
Yeah.
I just have a practical question about the job itself. So imagine you're working with a product designer, and they bring you in, say, once the solution has been defined, the UI, and then you start analyzing the content requirements, and you see that based on the content that's needed, that perhaps there needs to be a change to the UI before it's presented to other stakeholders like PMs or engineers. What would you recommend to kind of convince the product designer that it may be, a redesign might be necessary?
Pick your battles. Is it worth it?
Let's say it is really worth it.
Then go all on for it. Okay. Why? Because like what you can do is like you can create smaller prototypes, even if they're paper-based or if they're like really weird wireframes, that's fine. And explain to them why the content is not going to solve a design problem. Because content, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, will never solve a design problem. Sometimes you have to go back. Especially a technical problem. You'll have to go back to a drawing board. So explain to them why, give them the rationale why behind. and go for it. It's like it'll depend also on like what stage of this whole design process they're at. So if you have enough leeway and enough time, again, stakeholder management, speak to that designer to see if you can come midway or something.
Okay, thanks.
So we've got a question on the chat from Monse. How do you build relationships with your team of UX writers? Do you get on one-to-one calls with them, and how do you keep them all aligned?
Well, as a manager, you should have like weekly one-on-ones with them, and then daily stand-ups help a lot for the people to know what they're working on, and maybe also content grids for people to show their work and kind of like get feedback from other content designers. And Slack, there's many different channels, but it is important to make sure that there are different channels of communication so that they can communicate within the team, because what normally happens is that each UX writer is working with a different team, so it's really useful for them to kind of like also work with other content designers, because they may feel also alone on their day-to-day.
Yeah. We have some rituals at Qonto, so basically the team is meeting every day. We have our daily, then we have also, when needed, every day a copy challenge, where basically the person working on the feature will present to the rest of the team also what they've been working on and get feedback from the team. Basically it will be the team like asking questions. Why did you do this way? Why is this choice? Why we went for this solution? We also have UX Writing Weeklies, where we can talk about the team, present also more in depth projects we've been working on. And we also have Design Weeklies, where we meet with the entire design studio. So we have 4 expertises at Qonto: design system, brand design, product design, and UX writing. And each week there is some of the team presenting what they've been working on so far. And so every week we have at least one product designer and one UX writer also showing what they've been working on. It's the best way also to evangelize and showing, okay, this is a value you can create by working together, guys. So yeah, we have that kind of rituals. And then of course as a manager I have like one-on-ones with my team every week, and more if needed.
Okay, great. So we've got one final question on the chat from Manborgen. If a UX writer wants to switch companies and is knocking on many employers' doors to catch the attention of the UX managers, what would be the star strategy to follow? Imagine, one of your UX writers has been.
The question.
Well, if you have someone in your team and they've been sort of knocking on a few doors, and you hear about this through perhaps a contact in the industry, what would your
Someone
strategy
has a message to share tonight.
Well, the first thing that you have to do as a manager is try for them not to want to leave. So that would be my suggestion. You cannot stop people from looking for other jobs. You can make them want to stay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just have an anonymous conversation.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're at time. So I just want to say a massive thank you to our speakers today. I think you'll all agree they've been fantastic. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
And quick applause for Adil also
Definitely.
for keeping us on track. Thank you.
Thanks for organizing.
And a round of applause for the unsung hero at the back there, Mark, who has been on the chat, looking into all the questions, sending them to my Slack DMs so that we can read them out. Thanks, Mark. And thank you to all of you. Thank you to you online. Thank you to you here. I hope it's been a useful experience. I've learned an absolute ton. We will record this session and well, it's already recorded, but we'll put it out there so that you can rewatch it, take notes, send it on to your team. But from us here, that's everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool.